Hello, hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome. This is Carl's Roller Coaster Podcast. Hi, Jeff. Welcome to the roller coaster.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me, and it's wonderful to meet you.
Great, yeah, it's great to get to chat with you. I came across your work recently, and wow, it's really impressive. And then just reading about you and how things evolved on your life, and in terms of getting into this lighting designer career of yours, it's just really interesting. So yeah, it's great to have the chance to have a chat with you. Thanks in advance for it, and yeah, let's get on with it.
All right, let's go. I appreciate you saying all those nice things, by the way.
Great. So Jeff, tell us a little bit about how was your upbringing and where were you born?
My upbringing was very good. I was born in Connecticut, um, but I've been in New England my whole life. So half of my life was in Connecticut, the other half was in Boston. I'm an only child, and it was a good upbringing. It was a lot of good memories.
What was, if any, family influence in your musical career?
My father and would take me to a lot of concerts when I was younger. My first concert ever was Michael Jackson's Bad Tour. He also took me to see Bon Jovi and also Guns N' Roses. So I feel like as a kid, seeing all that just kind of wowed me. And I was just like, how is this possible? How can people put on all this stuff, and then all of a sudden it's there and then we're gone. So as a kid, I guess just the wonderment of seeing that kind of possibly put me on the path subliminally to here. But it just kind of, I've always loved music, period. And my father also had a lot of records that he'd always play. My dad was more about the Pink Floyds and like the rock and roll. And my mother was like kind of like the pop top 40 80s. So I had a pretty good mixture of 80s and 90s music that kind of also I think helped influence me. And I just fell in love with music, period, because they were always listening to it.
Wow, that's great. I mean, your dad took you to all those concerts. Do you remember what age were you when you attended those?
Oh gosh, I mean, so- I don't know. Whenever the Bad album was out and he did that tour, I don't really recall, honestly. Uh,
1988.
yeah. So yeah, I was young.
Very
Without dating
nice.
myself too much.
Super cool. Yeah, that's definitely one of the acts that I did not get to see, unfortunately. With Michael's passing, at Michael's passing, I had tickets for his "This Is It" concerts here in London back in
Oh
2010.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, that would have been amazing. But well, God bless him. God bless his soul.
yeah.
As I understand it, Jeff, you started as a booking agent, and how did you transition from being a booking agent to lighting designer?
Well, I would say as a booking agent, it was more like booking a lot of local slash regional artists in the New England area. So I was very novice at best as a booking agent when it came to all that. So, but it helped get me in the business, honestly. I also did kind of website design, so I was like website design slash booking agent for a lot of artists that happen to also be my friends in New England, and we booked some shows and put them on. And as I was booking those shows and in charge of like website design for the artist, I was always like thinking about the visuals on the website side. So when I'd go see the live show and I didn't see it kind of like reflecting what the guys wanted, on the virtual side versus the live side, I was like, well, so I went to go talk to the person in charge of lighting. I was like, "Is it okay if I, you know, mess around with some buttons?" He's like, "Oh," or they're all like, "Oh, I don't care," because a lot of the times, a lot of these rooms, a lot of the audio engineer was also having to run the lights. So a lot of the times they just put it up enough because obviously they have to, take care of the audio side of things. So a lot of the times no one will be doing anything. And so I have an opportunity to just kind of mess around and not really know what the heck I was doing. But that kind of like sparked my interest right there, to become involved in lighting.
Right. And you attended Emerson College in Boston, correct?
Correct. Yes, and I majored in television video with a slight minor in new media. At the time, it was called new media, which was basically digital art and website design and HTML coding.
Do you think that acquiring did you end up finishing the degree?
I did not. I took a leave of absence to begin my touring career.
Right. And how difficult was that decision? Did you think at the time that you would be returning at some point? Did you foresee that you would just get from one job to another? What was it like for you to making that decision? And did you actually shared that decision with your family? And did your family have any input on your decision at all?
Well, it's a loaded question. Let me see if I can cover all the points
Yeah,
to it.
sorry. Let's break it down.
It's okay. That's all right. Let me just. All right. So, taking a leave of absence was a pretty easy decision because as I was in school and still involved in website design and booking, and I would see all my friends kind of touring, I was always curious and always wanting to do something like that because it always looked, extremely interesting and fun. So I kind of had I've always wanted to do that kind of a vibe. And then as soon as the offer came across my plate, I took it without question. I didn't really consult family on any of that. I was just like, this is an opportunity. I'm going to take it. No one's going to, tell me, no to an opportunity like this. So I took it. And then that's the first domino that fell. And it's been what I've been doing ever since. So I basically kind of just say, hey, I went to school for whatever, and so the time I spent there got me to the career I'm currently at. So it doesn't really matter how you get there, but I got here.
Do you think that in any way the degree would like now, obviously many years after that decision was made, and you have been thriving and succeeding, being successful in your line of work? Do you is there anything during the last 15 years that you think that your degree might have helped you in any way if you had finished it in terms of having an extra accolade?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe. But I basically was about to graduate. Let me say that. So I'm basically a senior with only like a very few amount of courses left to do. So when it came to television video, I've been able to apply a lot of that with lighting because I did take a theater lighting class just because it was part of the criteria that I had to do with lighting, studio lighting and all that, with like live broadcasting and stuff. So I was able to apply that with a lot of DVD shoots that I've done with All Time Low specifically. Also the Dresden Dolls, they did a DVD shoot in London at the Roundhouse. That was the very, very first one I've ever done. And I almost immediately applied it because that was my first tour. Mm-hmm. So it not so much I didn't have a degree in it, but I had a lot of knowledge coming up to the point of almost having a degree that I was able to use a lot of the stuff that I learned at Emerson. Not so much with lighting, but a lot with actually the lighting world being married with video, and also just content. As we've gotten bigger budgets, a lot of artists will have video, and you can kind of help figure out what content will look good, why would it look good, and what color combinations would look good in that content. So I feel like no degree, but the knowledge from the class definitely helped.
How were you approached, and what artist was it for when you were approached for your first tour?
My first tour was in 2006 with the Dresden Dolls.
Oh, I see.
And
okay. And this one
so
led you to coming to London and filming at the Roundhouse. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, it wasn't. I don't. It's tough. It's because it was 2006, so it's obviously been a minute. But I believe it was the first or second tour I did with the Dresden Dolls over there. I'd have to look back at that. But
so yeah, if you could just be a bit more specific about that, because I mean, working in the music industry, we know how difficult it is to score good jobs and get things going, and then you end up getting your first job with an act who was already touring internationally, and on this particular case, coming to London and playing a fairly big venue, which is the Roundhouse, and then
Mm.
giving you the opportunity to straight away put on your CV that you filmed, that you did the whole, that you did not film, you did the whole lighting design show for a filming DVD or whatever that was. So how did that occur? How did you meet the artist, or who actually put you in touch with them? What was the what was the what was the link between Jeff Maker and the Dresden Dolls, for example?
Well, to go all the way back, it was I was basically working as a barback at the Paradise Rock Club in Boston, and they basically the lighting engineer there was looking for someone to sub for his days off or whatever, and he had heard because on my resume I put that I had dabbled in lighting, whatever that meant. And when I was looking for work while I was in school, and they're like, "Oh, well, would you like to learn more about lighting?" I was like, "I would love to." So the house lighting engineer Shane trained me in lighting as best as he could, so I'd be able to run my own shows when he'd need days off, and it was amazing. I just fell in love with it even more so, being like, this is something I think I'd like to stay doing. So I tried to work out my class schedule with my show schedule at the Paradise, and eventually there was a club named Axis in Boston that lost their lighting designer, and they brought me in to have that room for myself, because it was the same company that owned the venue, so they kind of swapped me over, so I got my own venue. But going back to the Paradise, the ticket taker there was the tour manager of the Dresden Dolls at the Paradise. They had seen me do lighting for some of the shows there, and they thought I did a good job. So when I went over to Axis, was about the time when they were about to start touring. So I was at Axis for about a year and a half before I had to train my own substitute to eventually leave to go on tour with the Dresden Dolls. But on that same note, the front of house engineer at Axis and the monitor engineer at Axis, both named Dave Hughes and Dave McNamara, were also touring crew for the Dresden Dolls. So the Dresden Dolls took the front of house engineer, monitor guy, and then myself, the lighting engineer from Axis, to start their first tour, and my first tour with them in 2006. Prior to 2006, they had already toured with I think Nine Inch Nails. They just got off tour with Nine Inch Nails prior to me hopping on with them. So it was Nine Inch Nails was my favorite artist. So having heard that, I was even more excited.
That's really amazing. It sounds like it's the classic, being ready and at the right place at the right time. Because
Yeah.
there is certainly a certain element of luck there, that the tour manager was working at the venue of which you were hired to do your job, and those connections end up happening. So that's really it kind of it tends to be like that, isn't it? It's a very this line of work, it's very difficult. There is no real way to apply online for a lighting designer job for a specific artist, isn't it? This is more like a word of mouth kind of thing. Someone that sees your work and then mentions to someone, and then eventually that you land the job. So this is really cool. It's really cool to see that really worked for you, because it seems that after the Dresden Dolls, you kept going, you progressed. So do you remember what was the next band that you went on tour? Did you come back from the road and stay? Because obviously there's especially in the beginning, I presume that there is lots of different, like, there's lots of gaps in between things, isn't it? It's not that you're getting a job that you know for a fact that you're gonna get 12 checks in 12 months, isn't it? So how
Yeah,
was it for you?
it was scary. It was one of those things where you jump in, you're excited about it, but you don't really understand. At least I didn't. I'll say that much. I didn't understand, the feeling of what is next. Oh gosh, I don't know, and then that feeling of I got to find something to do. But luckily, I was able to still keep my job at home at the venue when I would come home between tours. So I'd still work at Access and Avalon and the Paradise. And now, more recently, the House of Blues is where Avalon and Access used to be. Those two venues are now where House of Blues is in Boston. So I had worked at House of Blues for about 10, 11 years, or however long it's been open there. in between tours. So my boss Tim McKenna there, who helped get me in the business as well, and always would drop my name whenever he could. Still is production manager at that venue as well. So he was production manager at Axis and Avalon and still at House of Blues. So it's another one of those things, like you were saying, it's just right place, right time. Being surrounded by the right people who are there to help lift you up also helps too. And I've been very lucky to have a lot of coworkers and mentors to do that for me.
Very cool, very cool. So you worked with like many artists, the likes of Good Charlotte and the Gaslight Anthem, Dropkick Murphys, obviously All Time Low, just to name a few. What would you say are the main differences between acts and how flexible you have to be?
I mean, I think every artist is trying to tell its own story through its own music. So I approach each one as totally open-minded and just try to help tell their story through lighting. So I think it's just a matter of talking to the artist, seeing what they want to communicate. So a lot of times it's like, whatever you think is best. I'm like, great, and then you get to do that. But with the Dropkick Murphys, I was only filling in for a colleague and a good friend of mine, Brian. He was out doing Slayer's farewell tour, so I just happened to have my schedule open, and the Murphys, I know them anyway, so when Brian can't do it, sometimes I'm the next guy up to get the call. So it was fun to do that. And I love touring with those guys. They're super, super nice, super great, always down to earth, and they take care of their crew. So, when you get the call from them, it's, if I could say yes, I always say yes. But sometimes, the schedules don't work out. Like you're saying, it's just tough to do that. All Time Low has been, my main act for the past 12 years. So, their priority. And if my schedule works out, a lot of the times it does, ironically, and I'm able to take other artists on, and it's great. I mean, it feels like a big community, but it is also a very small community as well, because you see a lot of folks, a lot of the same guitar techs or front of house engineers on other crews, because it's a very, a lot of people still hire the same people in the same genres. So I'll come across a lot of friends on a lot of different tours that I didn't know were on that crew just yet. So it's I don't know, it's kind of fun. It's like going to a summer camp sometimes.
Is there a big difference from, for example, if you take a sound engineer, if he does the sound for a specific type of metal band or rock band or pop artist, generally speaking, that sound engineer, he will keep working with that sort of musical genre, because he extracts a specific sound, a very heavy sound, or whatever might be the case. In the lighting world, is there such thing, like you work with All Time Low, which is this huge spectacle and massive mega production, and obviously you could downgrade and do things in a much less scaled way, but in terms of like the artists that you work with, do you have to have yourself a sense, like is that an extra thing for like working with a specific type of rock bands, instead of working with you just mentioned it, for example, Slayer, which is a completely different I'd imagine a completely different approach to designing the lighting show. So how does that work for a lighting designer?
I really think I think everyone is different. I can't speak for everybody, but I mean, for myself, I feel like if I just sit down with their music, and just listen, and ideas will come based on that a lot of the times. And sometimes you'll have ideas that you've always wanted to try. And sometimes you're like, well, it doesn't make sense. And you'll put it in your back pocket for, next time it does make sense. And then maybe you'll come across an artist, that's a little harder or maybe a little more theatrical. The Dresden Dolls, for example, are very theatrical. So I feel like I applied a lot of my lighting, course knowledge, or whatever you would call it, from the theater side of things at Emerson to the Dresden Dolls, because it's very theatrical. So that helped there. So I feel like you definitely approach it differently, but I feel like it's just the music talks to you and tells you kind of how that design will look and how it'll make sense.
How much planning goes into it? Like first planning the lighting show for a tour, and then I mean, how does that really work? Do you, like you just mentioned it now, that you basically listen to the music? So I'd imagine if you are gonna go on tour, you're gonna get, say, the last record that was released, or that tour will be basically support of. How much planning does go into it? How much time in advance do you get to sit down and plan the show? And what are the next steps? Do you bring your ideas then to management, to the artist, and then you go back to the scratch board if necessary? Walk me through the process of planning the lighting design for a big tour, say for example, All Time Low.
I mean, everyone's time window is different when it comes to that. So I can only speak to my experience. Sometimes we'll get 3 months, and that's a lot of time for a lot of the stuff we do. I know a lot of other artists will take more time or less time. It's really their prerogative, and obviously budgets as well. So about 3 months time. So I'll basically draw it with a pen and pencil just to start. And then I'll put it, once I find the layout that I like. I'll put it just throw it in Photoshop just two-dimensionally, just to kind of see what it looks like there, and then kind of figure out the logistics of are these going to fit on the stages we're going through, or is it going to fit in the front door, is it going to fit in the loading docks, can all these pieces do this? Is it practical? Is it too much? Is it not enough? You kind of just go through all the venues and you see the happiest medium that you can come up with, as far as maybe fixture choices, maybe trim heights, backdrop sizes, riser sizes, when it comes to how high your stages are. So you kind of go through every bit. Arena tours are obviously a whole different animal. It's a lot of, it's all the same for the most part, so that's a lot better, a lot less of a headache way to design, but some of the rooms that, for example, All Time Low has done, like let's say overseas in the United Kingdom, or even in Ireland, the trim heights vary, the stage widths, the room sizes, they're all over the place. So the arenas there aren't exactly all the same shape, obviously. In the States, it's pretty straight up because they're usually basketball courts and hockey rinks, so it's pretty straight up as far as that goes. But you just gotta kind of have to keep an eye out for all the variables and seeing how practical it is to set it up in a timely manner. And once you get that part of it, then you should be working within a budget that management gives you, so exactly a ballpark of what you should be spending, or how practical again this would be given the budget you have. And with All Time Low, they do trust me with a lot of design stuff, but more they like to have a lot of their hands on as well. So they like to be involved in the design process a lot. So there's a lot of back and forth with ideas as well when it comes to that part of it. And once the band says yes, and if it's in the budget and it's all practical and it's easily set up with a great team, that gets you to the point of locking in the gear and signing the paperwork and getting it prepped prior to tour.
Yeah, I was going to ask, but you've already answered that management do come up with a budget, so you're not working. You do know how much can you put and how much can you not on the process of planning it, right?
Yes, yeah, and budgets do change. I mean, I will say that. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast sometimes. I'm just told, I just do what I'm told. When it comes to the numbers, I'm like, you give me the numbers, I'll keep it in those numbers. Oh, if we have to change anything, we'll change things. It's an organic process, and I enjoy it. But once you're in the numbers and everything is doable in these venues, it's pretty much a go.
What size of crew do you guys travel with?
Again, that varies. I'll stick with the UK for All Time Low, since we just did that one with a really big crew. For myself, I had 3 lighting techs, and I believe we had 2 video techs, and then we had our video operator, Santiago, taking care of all the video over there, and then Tom Lyons is my main tech over there as well, and it's a pretty decent crew. We had two bus worths, two buses full of band and crew just for our side of the thing.
Wow. I mean, just roughly from what you have just mentioned, I think like what, six, seven, eight people just on the lighting and the screens aspect of the production. That's pretty sizable.
Yeah, it's a good size, but you need every one of those people to get everything up in a timely, safe, and correct manner. So they're very necessary folks when it comes to the grand scheme of everything.
Do you get to choose these people, your assistants and the assistants and the people that will be working with you, or how does that happen? How does that work?
In the UK, I have been lucky enough to be able to do that. I've worked with the same company, Zigzag Lighting, over there for about 10 years, maybe 9 years. But I've been lucky enough to have Tom as one of my techs for a majority of that time, and he's just one of the hardest working people I've ever had the pleasure of working with. So anytime we go over there, I always send him a message. I'm like, "Hey, buddy, are you available? Can you be? How possible is it? And he actually did that for us. He was like booked on some like TV shoot that he had to do over there, and then he saw we were coming through it, and I was like, "Can you?" He's like, "Dude, you don't even have to ask me. I'll just drop whatever I'm doing for you guys." So he's just I don't know, but he's great to have, and he's a hard worker, and he knows what he's doing.
Excellent. How much of, like, because obviously touring these days and acts in general these days, things have really taken a very professional, high level standard in terms of how everyone, the artist, the act, and the crew behaves while on the road. How do you see that with all of those years of working on the road? Is it something, and I'm trying to refer myself here to basically how professional everyone has to be in the sense of this is not a rock and roll party. This is actually work. We are here to do a job, and in terms of people, well, you know, doing things that they shouldn't be doing it, like sleeping too late and not being completely fit and ready for the job the next day and things like that. How's your experience with that? Do you see a lot? Are you lucky enough to have a lot of professional people around you at all times, or throughout the years have you seen or experienced people just falling off the wagon a bit?
I would say 95% of my career, I have been lucky enough to work with some of the most professional folks in the business. The 5% I would say was early on in my career, and maybe that was just because it was early on in my career. So I don't know, but as of this, I mean, let's say the last 15 years of my touring career, I've been very lucky to have some great coworkers, great touring mates, great artists to work with. I've never had any problems with anybody being unprofessional or, you know, making people feel bad about anything. It's just been a great environment. I've just been very lucky.
Have you toured during this last year, since the world has started reopening?
Yeah, I just finished being on the road for about 5.5 months
Oh wow.
with All Time Low. So I just got home probably about a week ago, maybe 5 days. I don't know.
Oh
Time's
wow.
strange, but yeah. So in between, we had like small breaks. Like I maybe had I had 2 days off in between one of the tours, and then I think 5 days off in between the other one. So basically, we just counted it as this is nonstop. So,
Right.
but now I'm home for the rest of the year. I just did some one-offs with All Time Low. We just did a show in Tampa, and then they had a makeup show in New Orleans that we just did. But those were the last two ones of the year, and I just got home from those and just kind of settling in and enjoying time off.
How was it touring? Obviously, with all the protocols and COVID going around and all that. I mean, for for the last 5.5 months, just like you mentioned that you've been on the road, and I presume things just just happen and well as expected. You didn't have any hiccups during the last period on the road. How was that for you? Did it change much? How was it?
Yeah, it changed a lot actually, and which we expected, and everyone expected a lot of change. And I think it also, again, it depends on what touring party you were in during this last year. I mean, I have colleagues, that have told me on other tours, how their protocols are going and stuff like that. And, you kind of like see the similarities, and some of them are a little bit more relaxed, and some of them are more similar to the ones we had, which were very strict. It was negative tests, fully vaccinated, masks all the time, so which we did, and we had no problem doing whatever it takes to keep the business, going. Our livelihood and what we love to do is, what we're here to keep going, during this time.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird, to try to do it. And, we did it. A lot of other tours did it successfully. And, I think it's going to still be kind of the thing for a while. I think 2022 is probably be the same vibe for at least the first half of the year. I mean, might as well just say the whole year, because I just don't think it's just going to go away,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it'll be on people's minds for a while. And honestly, I don't mind the stricter protocols. I mean, if it's going to keep us safe, and even if people are sick, now we know, it's like, okay, great, good. Keep a mask on, like we know, like, things that we wouldn't have known before.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the less, and sometimes less people backstage is a better environment, not only for the artist but for the crew, because sometimes crew don't get a chance to have some quiet time or a place to sit. Sometimes it can get a little crowded, but that's just the nature of the beast. But these new protocols have helped kind of thin the herd out, and it's been different but nice.
Yeah. How's a normal day for you? On the road. I mean, what time do you normally get to the venue, and then you get your setup going, and then you have a break, you have dinner, and then you back to work, and after, as the show ends, does your job ends there, or do you have any other roles in terms of packing away desks and things like that?
In the States, I tend to have to do everything myself, so I don't have any techs on some of the Ensemble tours. I'd say the majority in the States, at least. Overseas is where the budgets are a little bit bigger, which allows for the necessary personnel to be present. But in the States, I've set up a lot of this stuff on my own, so I'll basically get up with the production manager and our stage manager, do the venue walkthrough, even though our production manager will always have our information we need in a Dropbox folder, that we need, like patch sheets or stage plots, all the good stuff. But we'll still do a venue walkthrough just to make sure everything from paper is looking like it does in reality. And our stage manager will just make sure our spots on stage are sectioned off, so he knows where dimmer beach will go for my lighting power. I'll go take a look at front of house to see how much room they have. They normally get a lighting writer from me. Whether they read it or not is a whole other story, but there's certain things on there that'll help their day if they were able to do it before we get there. We'll see if we have to run my lighting snake. Sometimes houses will have lines already run that, is all I need, like a cat 6, cat 5, whatever. And if they do, great, we'll test it out and we don't have to run my snake. So it's like one less thing for me to have to do at the end of the night, because I'm already doing a lot of setup alone. But we have a lot of stagehands, that'll jump in, but you kind of have to just make sure that they're doing the right stuff. But when you have a good lighting prep and everything is labeled perfectly, it's a lot easier to direct local hands to help you do that. But yeah, so basically set up everything, test everything out, go to front of house, set up, make sure the consoles are set up, plug in, test your lines, make sure everything is good that you set up. Then I'll take the house patch, if I haven't already done that already, and clone my fixtures over from their house rig, so that it looks all beautiful, like it all makes sense, almost like we brought in some of the house stuff ourselves, if possible. Program as much as I can. If I have time for a lunch break, I'll take one. If not, sometimes I forget to eat. Then sometimes we'll have to do a sound check party, so we'll be present during that. And then after the sound check party, if I have to finish any updates, I will. If not, then I'll hand the lines back over to the house or to my lighting techs, whoever will be running support, if that's the deal. Then I'll take a dinner break, hopefully a nap maybe, run the show after that. Then we'll break down, load up the truck, and Uh, go to sleep and repeat.
How? What do you miss most from home when you're on the road, Jeff?
I miss my girlfriend the most. I miss my dogs. I miss my own bed. um, home cooked meals. Uh, I don't know. Sometimes personal space because you're always surrounded by people, in front of house and stuff. That's just part of the job. But sometimes you're like, man, it's when you get your own space, that's
Hmm.
you appreciate it more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah, which brings the question, as you just mentioned it, how I mean, how difficult it is, or if not, how do you deal with the situation, well, with your personal life, basically, because
Mm.
it is always a question for every touring professional, be that an artist or be a crew member. Um, how is that for you? I mean, you've been obviously doing this for so many years, and as you have mentioned, and now you do have a person on your life, a girlfriend, and how does that work? I mean, how understanding the person next to you have to be, and how difficult it is for you as well to be all that time away from them.
You have to be with someone very understanding, extremely understanding. It's very difficult. Her and I, we FaceTime as much as we can, talk as much as we can, text as much as we can. She comes out to visit as much as she can too. But it was also, she'd have to go get, negative tests, even, she's fully vaccinated, but she'd have to go get, negative tests and always be masked up as well during all the visits. So there was an extra added layer of, okay, we have to do this before you come visit kind of a thing. So, I mean, she did it more times than, anybody I know, as far as getting tested all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's you have to make the effort, and it takes a lot of understanding, and it takes a lot of time apart. But she's a trooper.
When it comes to um, your time on the road and the future, do you see yourself at some point changing the direction of how you operate, in the sense of, okay, perhaps now I'm gonna have a family, and I do want to stay more at home other than on the road? Is it something that goes in your mind? Is it something that you contemplate at times? Is it something that you definitely do not think about it at this stage?
No, I think about it. I think about the future a lot, and to try to plan it, even though that's impossible sometimes. But I mean, the ideal job for me, I feel, and this is, I'm just putting it out in the universe. I'd probably love to do lighting for one of the late night shows that does a lot of good, live-ish lighting. Kimmel does a good job with that. So something like that after touring, if that's still a thing, would be great. Or doing lighting for Saturday Night Live, I would flip out if I was able to do that. But I feel like that's where my head would be at if I were to conclude touring, or maybe lighting on, you know, film in some other ways, kind of bringing it back to what I went to school for. That would also be nice if this could potentially lead back to where, kind of started in some form to get me off the road. But yeah, I think about it.
Cool. Well, I'm actually gonna move now into what I call roller coaster questions. So,
All right, let me just put my seatbelt on.
please do. It's nothing
All
too
right,
crazy about it, but yeah.
all right, I'm ready.
Jeff, do you have or follow any morning routines?
I, kind of. I mean, it's just literally get up, brush your teeth, get dressed for the day, and then just maybe have a coffee after that. But I try not to after I brush my teeth. I kind of wait till maybe after load in. But that's about it. It's not very glamorous. It's just wake up and do your job.
You mentioned that, well, yeah, you mentioned it in the case of being on the road, but is it the same situation for you when you're at home, or does it differ in any way?
it's a lot more relaxed at home without getting too much into my personal life. We tend to sleep in, and we'll make breakfasts or go antiquing. Stuff like that has been, I wouldn't say a routine, but just it feels more normal. And those are the things that kind of stick out in my mind as, okay, this is something we can do anytime we want to do it, and we can make it our routine.
Fair enough. Are you a spiritual person at all, or have any particular beliefs?
I'd say the term spiritual, I think, is defined by each person individually. I don't know if I have any particular beliefs. I feel like I'm a very spiritual person when it comes to maybe being in touch with the earth. I don't know. Like, I love going outdoors. I love swimming. I love hiking. I love smelling, like just like pine, in the forest if we're hiking, or like the smell of like a waterfall mist, stuff like that. Not to sound too cheesy, but I feel like that's as spiritual as I would get.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer right there. What's your view about money?
Uh, I mean, it's a life necessity that we were kind of born into, and so we just have to deal with it. It's good, I guess, because we need it to survive in a way, but it's the root of all evil in a lot of other ways. I don't know. You have a love-hate relationship with something like that.
Yeah, I do actually. I do actually think in a very similar way. So yeah, very very well put.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
good to have a bunch, but then you're like, okay, I have a lot of these numbers, okay, I exchange these numbers to feed myself. It's like, it's just a weird thing. I don't know. It just doesn't seem normal for human beings.
yeah, totally. It's another creation of ours that, like you said, we were born into it, and I mean, you were
Yeah.
into this thing that is going on, and there's no way to, be out of it unless if you become, I don't know, someone completely detached from what we perceive as being reality, right? So
Right.
it's
I mean, I guess you could live off the land, but it just takes money to go do that too. So, like, in order
exactly
to do that, in order to rid yourself of money, you have to spend the money
totally
to,
totally.
to get there. So.
Yeah, no, totally. What do you do to unwind? What's the perfect lazy day on your books?
Oh, the perfect lazy day is probably the routine I was describing about us sleeping in and just relaxing. And for some reason, I just think of just the beach. I mean, just sitting on a beach, sitting on a pool, drinking Miami Vices, those pina coladas, half pina colada, half strawberry daiquiris. Those they're just so delicious, and I feel like that's just a nice, relaxing, vibe. A massage would be great. Those are nice. A spa day, a pool day, a beach day, and Miami Vices for beverages would be great.
Oh man, you just put that image in my mind now, and here in the UK, the weather is so grim at this time of the year that it's just like
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I know. I do love it over there, though. I mean, when you get your sunny days, you appreciate them a lot more.
Oh,
For sure.
absolutely, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When you get a good sunny day, it's just like, yeah, this place
Yeah.
would be absolutely. I mean, in my way of seeing, absolutely perfect if the winter wasn't as grim as it is, But then again,
Yeah.
those things you can't really change. It is what it is. So,
Very true.
Jeff, what are you listening to these days?
Ooh, let's see. Usually artists that I'm on the road with, but you know what? I'm just going to bring up I have a front of house playlist that I listen to every day, and I just kind of put on music there as I'm updating like positions or
Oh wow, is that a public
or like
playlist that you could share with
no,
people?
it's just for my own ears. Like for example, I have like the Commodores to Adele to Prince to Girl in Red to like the Batman soundtrack, like
Hmm.
or Stranger Things or Caddyshack or the ET theme song, like little things like that, or Starship for the soundtrack for Mannequin. I don't know, like it's all over the place. There's a lot of '80s like sprinkled in with like new stuff, and yeah, I think that's it.
Really cool, really cool. What are some of the subjects that you enjoy exploring about outside the ones that we've already talked?
I love outer space. I love stargazing and just planets, facts, looking at stuff like that, and um, just everything outer space, everything. Just it's just so mind blowing, and I'm just so curious about everything, and I just go cross-eyed thinking about the vastness of it all, and our place in it, and just stuff like that. It just drives me crazy in the best way possible, just thinking about it. So it's something I've always wanted to do, is to be an astronaut, but I don't. That is never going to happen. So it's just one of those things that I can maybe read as much as I can on it, or watch enough documentaries or interviews about it, or YouTube videos about it, or whatever, just to get as close as I can.
Do you believe that there are life outside of our planet?
Yes, yes, I do.
That's the multi-million question, isn't it? I mean, we live
Yes.
we live in this planet. Just literally, I was having a chat yesterday with a friend about it, and we because we human beings, we have inhabiting this planet for so long, for like as sapiens for at least two, and then now they're saying between 200 and 300,000 years, but it's millions of years of biological evolution. And
Yes.
because we are on the top of the tree, because we are arguably the most intelligent living creature here, and we haven't met yet any other form of life that can actually put the finger in our face and say, hey, you, stupid you, human being, don't do this, don't destroy the planet, don't do this,
That'd be
don't do,
nice if
you
we
know,
met
but
some. It'd be nice if we met an external force such as that to
absolutely,
say
it would
to
be
say something like that.
absolutely. I think it would be very humbling, and it would change our understanding, perhaps, of thinking that we know it all, because we can see and we
Exactly.
can hear. We have this. It's just in our subconscious, I believe, already in our in our own iOS programmed in ourselves, that we think that we know it all, just because that's what we see and what we hear, and that's kind of like it's very limiting in many ways, because thinking that you know it all, and by that I don't mean in any other way than basically we believe what we see and what we touch and what we hear, kind of thing, so
Yes.
I think it would be super cool to actually have an external force, hopefully not coming to I don't know, get our precious planet from us, but to really just give us a good slap in the face and say, "Hey guys, come on, get your shit together." This printing money of yours means nothing, man. This is not real, dude.
Right. It brings it all full circle. Yeah, we need like alien mommy and daddy to come down and be like, "Look, you kids, you rascals, you're all messing up." But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
No, yeah, that's
if it
cool.
happens in our lifetime, we'll circle back. Oh, hey, remember we were talking about that? Now the aliens are here, and we'll circle back to it.
Yes, yeah. I think that's actually a very we can wrap it up here. This comes into a good level of conversation for my understanding here. So Jeff, I really really appreciate your time, man, and
All right, thank you. I
uh,
appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate you reaching out. And this was extremely fun. So thanks for having me.
keep doing your good work, man, and congrats on your career. It's very very difficult for people to succeed in the level that you are actually playing. So it's really cool. I mean, it takes a lot of effort, and well done. Keep working hard. Keep doing your thing, and I'm sure we're gonna cross paths on the road at some point.
That sounds great, man. I appreciate you saying all that. And I'll talk to you soon.
I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation, this podcast, as much as I did doing it. So, if that's the case, please do follow on Instagram at rollercoastercarl, myself at Carl Casagrande, on Twitter, same thing, Facebook, same thing. Do subscribe. Do subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on Spotify. That's very, very much appreciated. Thank you and have a great, great day. Cheers. Bye-bye.